In the dawn after empire, when Africa's soil was still wet with the dew of new freedom, Uganda looked to a man named Milton Obote, a quiet storm in spectacles, a philosopher among the ambitious, a dreamer armed not with a sword but with a word. He was born in the highlands of Lango, among people who still believed that honor was heavier than gold. To them, the young Obote seemed destined. His eyes already fixed upon the horizon of soft rule, his heart burning with the rhetoric of Pan-Africanism. But power, like fire, purifies only when contained. When unleashed, it devours the very hands that light it. In 1962, when Uganda raised her flag among nations, Obote stood at the altar of history, with one hand on the Bible and the other on the Constitution. He promised to weave together tribes, tongues, and tempers into one nation. The alliance with Kabaka Mutesa, the monarch turned president, was a marriage of convenience. It was brilliant in vision, but it was doomed in trust. For kings did not share crowns, and republics did not bow to thrones. By 1996, the honeymoon of independence had turned to a struggle for supremacy. Soldiers marched against their own palace, and Uganda watched as the first president fled, not to exile alone, but into the long shadows of our own disillusionment. Obote had won the seat, but lost the soul of his nation. He promised a new dawn through socialism, the move to the left, yet found himself surrounded by men who moved only towards power. Corruption crept in like a familiar ghost, and whispers of betrayal became the anthem of the streets. Then came the soldier Idi Amin, his boots echoing the same corridors Obote once passed. The hunter became the hunted. Obote fled into Tanzanian exile to nurse his broken dream and the bitter irony that revolutions rarely honor their authors. Years passed, regimes fell, exile hardened into patience. And like a chapter history had forgotten to close, Obote returned in 1980. He was older, he was more cautious, still convinced that his destiny was not yet spent. But fate, that silent historian, had other plans. The second coming of Obote was no resurrection, it was a repetition. The same storms that undid his first reign had returned, this time more fierce, deadlier, and unforgiving. By 1985, the man who had once promised unity had fled again, a king twice exiled from his own throne, a dreamer twice betrayed by his own dream. History, it seems, is not a ladder but a wheel. It turns, and the faces upon it rise and fall with the same rhythm. Ambition, triumph, corruption, and downfall. Yet let us not judge him too quickly, for Milton Obote was no tyrant of appetite. He was a prisoner of vision, a man who sought to craft a nation of equals from the chaos of tribe and empire. His tragedy was not his failure, but his faith, his belief that reason could govern passion, and that politics could be moral. In the end, Obote stands not as a villain, not as a saint, but as a mirror to the African struggle itself. Noble in intent, wounded in execution, eternal in its longing to reconcile freedom with order. When we speak of Uganda's past, we do not merely recall the rise and fall of a man. We recall the perilous journey of a people learning, painfully, that independence is not the end of the struggle, but just the beginning. And somewhere in the quiet archives of memory, Obote remains, but not as a name to be forgotten, but as a question still unanswered. Can power ever be pure in a world so deeply human?